Welcome back to Rolling History. In this episode, we're going to rebuild the distributor drive mechanism, and it's been a while since we've done a video. I've just been busy, a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of parts out getting worked on, waiting for things to come back. So it's making it kind of difficult to get things done, but still working on the car, just I'm not actually doing it all. Some of the stuff had to be machined, some things are getting repaired elsewhere, so that's been the holdup the last couple weeks or 3 or 4 weeks because we haven't had a video. But this week I got some parts back, so we're going to rebuild that distributor drive, and then we'll pick something else for next week. So let's go fix that. All right, so here we have the distributor drive gear or device, I don't know what you would call it. The distributor sits in here, and this is turned off the water pump. So I took off the little connector that connects it to the water pump. There was a little pin in there, and there's also a pin in this collar that holds it in. So it should be pretty basic. This one is damaged. I'm not sure if it's going to make enough difference. Sorry, it still has 3 holes to hold it on there. Probably it'll be okay. Or if I decide to, maybe I'll have my buddy Junior weld it up here, and we'll drill a hole in it, grind it back down, and try and make it look original. But to me, it's not really that important. I think it's strong enough. So I'm just going to loosen these 4 bolts here, or 4 screws that are holding this is what holds the coil, or was the coil. I'm not quite sure. Not quite sure how that worked back then. Now, inside here is a mechanical advance and a lot of old grease. So I guess the distributor doesn't have its own advance in it. I haven't really taken a look, but it looks like this is the advance right here. I want to be a little gentle with it because I don't want it to fall apart while it's coming out of there, because I won't know how to put it back together. I think I'm going to put this on the press real quick. Okay, very gently pressed it off, and I'm going to pull it all the way through here. Now the reason I took it apart is there's a lot of play in the bushing in there. So I'm pretty sure it's going to need a new bushing, which is kind of strange because it doesn't turn that fast, but maybe it was just never oiled. I don't know. Hopefully Myers will have that bushing, and I'll just be able to push it in there. Or maybe it doesn't even have a bushing. Yeah, I think it does. Well, if it doesn't look like it did, but it's going too soon. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up and see how it works, and we'll go from there. Okay, so it turns out that there are no bushings in the housing here, and a little more inspection shows that the shaft is actually worn down quite a bit. So I had a buddy of mine machine a new shaft, and it's much smoother inside there now. It doesn't wobble around like it was. So I'm going to just transfer all the pieces onto this one, and then we'll insert it in the housing, and hopefully we'll be good to go. There, maybe I can show you the difference between the two. Yeah, you can see here's the amount of wear on the bottom shaft is the old one, and the top one is the new one. So you can see the lines there where it had worn out. So I have a new one, and let's put it all together. Okay, so first off, I'm going to put some grease in these little pivot areas and get it lubed up a little bit so it doesn't wear. All right, now we're just going to insert the new shaft in here. And this is actually left-handed threads. So they're backwards. Okay, so I got that, and it's going to need this little bushing on there. All right, turns out I'm going to have to put this pin in this bushing, or this little stop collar, before I tighten this bolt, or maybe even put the whole thing together. Let's back up a little bit. Okay, so I need to put this pin in before I put that together. Now I went and picked up some roll pins instead of the original just solid pins. So the solid pins I had to grind off a little bit to get them out, and the roll pin is just easier. So that's what it's going to get going back together. A little bit long. I guess I could grind it off, or I don't think it'll matter. Okay, so I have that little stop collar in now. Let's get back to this. It's tricky when there's grease all over your fingers. Okay, so this little kind of washer here, it's kind of a lock also. See that it goes down in the hole right there, and then you bend up the other side to keep the nut from coming off. Okay, so I went and picked out a little socket. And I just forgot that the threads are backwards. All right, so I just bent up the little tab there, if you can see it right here, to hold that little brass nut from backing off when it's turning. So I'm just gonna put some grease inside the housing here. Okay, and here we go. I'm just going to throw a little grease on this as well, just so it has some on there when it's time. Just so it doesn't run dry. It'll end up getting some oil in there, but for the first few minutes or so, I don't want it to run dry. Okay, so it took me a little bit. I guess my friend that made the shaft had the hole for this pin just a little too far forward, so I had to machine down this little collar just a hair to get it to fit. So it's nice now. Everything seems to be working. And on further, I guess, evaluation, this cannot be an advance for the distributor. This has to be something just, you know, there's a little rubber piece that mounts here that connects between a couple things like this. And the only reason I can think of having this is that the rubber is soft, and when it twists, it might come out of time. So this right here, the centrifugal force kind of keeps it in line. That's the only thing I can come up with. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's certainly not an advance for the distributor because it's solid on the shaft and it has nothing to do with the distributor, how the distributor works. So anyways, that's back together, one more part. And that's going to be it for this video. So we'll see you next time. All right, thanks for watching this episode of Rolling History. Next week, we're going to try and work on the front axle of the car. I got some new spindles for it, and or not spindles, but kingpins and bushings for the spindles. So hopefully next week we'll get to that, and then the water pump, and then I have the starter generator is also really close to being finished. I've seen it 2 or 3 times at the shop and needed a couple little parts. I got them, and I think it's ready to go, but I'm working on their timeline when they have time to work on it. So with that one's coming up, and then we'll go from there. But anyways, thanks for watching this episode of Rolling History, and we'll see you next time.